Okay, it's time.
All right, yes.
Okay, we're calling the August 17, 2023 Board of Township Trustees of Anderson Township, calling the meeting to order. Well, actually, we already did that, sorry. Motion to return to open session.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Austin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. And please join us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Austin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Okay, presentations and recognitions. Our Representative Rachel Baker, you're up. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Thanks for giving me some time on your agenda. I wanted to come today to talk about the budget, state budget that was passed at the end of June and implications for Anderson Township. So what I did was pulled out the 9,000-page budget, pulled out Anderson specifics so that you had high level of what's happening in Anderson Township. I have some stuff about school funding, since school is a big part of this. We are continuing the fair school funding rollout, so there'll be an increase per pupil amount from the state that will go to Anderson in fiscal year 24 and 25. So the Cup-Patterson Fair School Funding is a long-term plan to roll out fair school funding, and so every 2 years the GA votes on whether we're continuing implementation. So for these 2 years we are. We also, a big change to schools is anyone that previously qualified for reduced lunches now have free breakfast and lunch. So there's no such thing as reduced lunch. So any students in that program, and for any schools that have students in 6th grade or above, the schools will be required to provide period products in school. And there's funding for all of that. And then I put some of the Hamilton County related earmarks here so you can see things that got in the budget that might not be directly Anderson Township but affect a lot of your residents. So included all of those in there. And then local government fund and the PLF was permanently increased to 1.7%. Not a huge increase, but a little bit of an increase, and I showed what that would be in Anderson Township. And then really, I put a few statewide things that people have been asking me about so that you all have them in case you get questions. One that keeps coming up here is the top 5% scholarship that was passed. So what that is every high school in Ohio, the top 5% of the class gets automatic $5,000 a year scholarships for any Ohio university for their 4 years. And they don't have to apply.
$5,000 a year for each year?
Yeah, and they don't have to apply. It's automatic, the top 5% of every high school. So I think those are like super high level. There's a ton of things, changes to the tax code, changes to Medicaid coverage, but that's the big level Hamilton County stuff. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on was the capital budget, which we'll start working on soon, and requests for funding will come soon. There's actually a webinar. I know this is really late notice, but tomorrow at 1, if I can send the information, if anyone here would be interested in going on about how to successfully, I can send it to you, successfully apply for state funding. But I will say that there is a huge state budget this year because of leftovers and rollovers from COVID. We still have money left over from this $191 billion budget. And so I would highly suggest that you put some capital projects in and let me know, and I'm happy to have my office support them. But I think there's lots of opportunities. So my thought was, as these kind of opportunities come up, I'll pass them on to Vicki, and anything that you guys want. My plan while I'm there is to push as many District 27 projects as I can. We have received funding for the Loveland sidewalks. And then Terrace Park, when I went and talked to them, they said something about their water system and closing their water loop. And I reached out to the federal government, and that we got that all funded. So there is a ton of money right now. So if you guys have projects, please push them to me, and I'm happy to help bring some money into Anderson. And anything else legislative-wise, I'm happy to represent our area and make sure I bring stuff back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Water.
Questions?
No, I'm just, water. I'm
Water.
just throwing out water. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome.
This is very helpful.
Good.
Because I've been reading a lot, but it's like having it all bulleted out like this, it's like, oh.
Yeah, and there's a lot,
Interesting.
there's, 9,000 pages. So there's a lot more very interesting things in there. I just tried to pull stuff that I thought people would hear about and you might want data on.
Well, I
so.
know I texted you earlier, last week, I think,
Mm-hmm.
last week or 2 weeks ago, about the whole vaping thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that apparently they vetoed that part of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything we do on that, we'll have to, okay.
They vetoed the part that home rule didn't stand. So home rule stands on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
questions?
thank you
Yeah.
for taking the time to
Of course.
come and present this and putting this all, compiling this for us. It's exciting to see some of the earmarks for things that I know that personally impacted me growing up, like the meal tickets. That sounds so small, but if you're already getting like reduced lunch, then you have a meal ticket, coming up with that extra $1.25 or 50 cents is actually harder than it seems. So that's really good. Thanks,
Yes.
Rachel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of
it's
course.
been a while since the state rep visited our little humble township, so thank you.
This is my plan. This is my plan with this. And I think my office reached out, Lila. So my plan is to actually like come and tell you what's going on each step. So this is my 1/4 of my role is done. So my 1/4 report. But I would like to come like at halfway and 3/4 and report next time it'll be legislation, then the next time will be capital budget. But I was thinking it would be helpful to you all not to have to look it up, but also so that we have that, I mean, I know you guys, but so we have that relationship so you can reach out if there's things that we can help at the state level, and we're more connected locally and statewide versus two separate. So reach out.
Did you go to the school board meeting too and tell them?
So that's something I could use your help on since you bring it up. I have reached out to every school district in my district to present something that I did just like this, but schools, and only one of my school districts has not responded and allowed me to be on their budget, and it is your Forest Hill School District.
You can always go in during public comment, though.
That's when I'm going to
That's- I
go,
would
but
just-
it's difficult.
On September 20th, they'll be having a meeting, and I
it's
would just go
impactful
during
to have you there.
Yes.
public comment. And
Well, and I've created these
Yeah.
just school,
That
just
would
what it means
be-
for schools. So I've
I
asked
think
their
the parents too.
Yeah.
In the audience would be so grateful.
the
and appreciative.
scholarships and the lunches. I mean, there's a ton of
Yeah, they
education
would.
stuff.
That
So
scholarship
my
piece, yeah,
plan
that's
was to go to
exciting.
public comment if I can't get time on their
Yeah.
agenda, but I think we're up to 6. We're going to try 10 messages to them, and at that point, I'll just go to public comment. So,
Plus, their meetings are a lot more fun than ours.
yeah, I don't have the audience
More
here.
lively.
Yeah, but
The
feel
only
free to
issue with the public comment is they divide up the amount, the 30
Yeah.
minutes.
Oh,
only
yeah,
got
I have
3
like 30
minutes.
seconds
You
or
only have
something.
3
So
minutes.
you
3
might
minutes,
only
but
get
I'm-
a minute.
Yeah, but really, I mean, I talk mostly about funding stuff because that's what we've been doing for 6 months, but we also have adoption legislation that I'm passing that's made it through the House unanimously and is moving to the Senate soon, and some really good legislation that's happening up there too that'll have impacts, and I'm happy to talk about that next time. But anything you guys think of, like the vaping thing, if that wouldn't have happened, or anything that would help the township, I'm happy to push up there, so.
Thank you,
Okay.
Ms. Baker.
All right, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Okay, National Preparedness Month. Rick, we're going to be prepared for something.
Getting prepared for something.
Hello.
That's me, yes. Good evening. So September is National Preparedness Month. National Preparedness Month is an observance each September to raise awareness about the importance of preparing for potential disasters and emergencies. In 2023, the focus of National Preparedness Month will be on preparing older adults, so I thought, what would Rick do? for emergency situations, which can come from any number of events ranging from damaging storms and floods and events, which occur with some regularity here in Anderson, usually in the spring, to the unexpected and extraordinary. That might include natural disasters, terrorist actions, extreme heat or cold, and extreme fires, just to name a few. And notably, I wanted to mention the recent fire events experienced on the island of Maui, which this morning I heard was up to 111, I believe, death toll, as a strong reminder that sometimes without notice, the unthinkable and unimaginable can and do occur anywhere. And to my recollection, this is the first time I've ever heard of wildfires being an issue in Hawaii. So it's, it's one of the things that even in paradise, things like this can occur. So I want to note that all the information that I'm going to mention in the next few minutes can be found on the internet on ready.gov, and specifically the information about older adults is ready.gov/older adults. So how should the residents, specifically older adults of Anderson and Newtown, prepare for emergency situations? As an initial matter, the foundation of emergency preparedness for everyone, regardless of age, is food, water, and a radio. That is a minimum of 3 to 7 days of food with a manual can opener. And if you've ever been on a camping trip without one of those, you get the importance of that.
Yeah.
1 gallon of water per day per person, and a portable crank or a radio with extra batteries. And you also need to make sure that you include food and water for pets and service animals. We also suggest that for all ages, an emergency kit be prepared in advance that includes at least the following items: an extra charger for your cell phone, an extra battery pack, or a small solar charger, non-prescription medications such as pain relievers, Benadryl, antibacterial ointments, and similar items you might need. Prescription eyeglasses are very important, contact lenses in solution, a safe light source. We always tell people to use a battery headlamp because it allows your hands to be free and have some extra batteries. Some of those are also solar powered. A basic first aid kit, moist towelettes, and some hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer is very important. It's often left out. I also did want to mention that individuals with small children should have a small reserve of infant formula, bottles, diapers, and wipes set aside in case they need to evacuate or they lose their power or have to go to another location. Now, older adults even face a greater and bigger challenge when it comes to preparing for an emergency situation, especially those who live independently, have lower fixed incomes, or live with disabilities of some type. We suggest that older adults make the following additional preparations, preferably also in pre-assembled emergency kits that they can go to immediately. And that's a minimum of 3 to 7 days of prescription medication. If they check their kit every September, like we plan to remind them, they can take the old medication out, utilize it, put new medication in. A list of any assistive devices they will need to take with them in case they have to leave their home for any reason. It's also important that older adults create a support network of family, friends, and others who can assist them during an emergency. Older adults should also make an emergency plan for themselves and make sure they inform their support network of what their plans are, where they're going to go. Older adults should also make sure at least one person in their support network has an extra key to their home and knows where medication and emergency supplies are kept. Lastly, if an older adult receives routine treatments administered by a clinic or a hospital or other healthcare provider, they should find out the provider's emergency plans, how the provider makes notification to patients in case there's disruptions in the service, and work with them to identify backup service providers. I also want to touch on how notification of emergencies can be made. And for Hamilton County, the primary dispatcher of emergency information and warnings is the Hamilton County EMA. So for residents of Hamilton County, we strongly urge them, and this is Anderson and Newtown residents, to subscribe to Alert Hamilton County, and a sister service to that is Smart 911. Now, it's important to know what these two services do and what they don't do. Alert Hamilton County is simply a mass notification system where an individual specifies to Hamilton County EMA what their preferred method of emergency notification is. So you get on, you register, and you tell them, this is my phone number, this is where I can be texted, this is where my email is, and you can choose any one of those or all of them to be notified. And you can also go down and pick the things you want to be notified of. You can be notified of things as common as maybe a strong wind alert, or you can say, nope, I only want to be notified if there's a tornado warning or other severe emergency in my general area. Now, Smart 911 is a totally different system, although you can register with it right alongside the Alert Hamilton County. Smart 911 is a system that gives first responders helpful information when the patient, wherever we may go, is unable to do so. The information that we might get from Smart 911 is the names of the individual who needs help, the names and telephone numbers of an individual's emergency contacts, a patient's medical history, as well as any allergies, medications, or disabilities. It's very important that Smart 911 only forward this information to first responders actually on an emergency scene. So the information, and this is a concern that we've heard from individuals who we try and get to register with Smart 911, is they're concerned this information will get out. This information is not sold or given to any other agency. And as a matter of fact, the only way that emergency responders get it is when we go to an address, and when you sign up for Smart 911, your name is tied to this address. So we can, if we go to a particular address and somebody is registered under that address, we can get information down on our mobile data computers in our medic units and our engines. It goes nowhere else, and it's not accessible by any other person except Hamilton County dispatchers and the first responders to the address. That can also be done via phone number. If somebody is able to give us a phone number, we can get a hold of Hamilton County, give them that phone number, and they will download to us the same information about the individual, such as their medical history and allergies and other important items. So I would close by saying I would urge everyone to visit Alert Hamilton County and Smart 911 website. And they have many, many pages of frequently asked questions. So if people have concerns about signing up or what can be notified, they have, I want to say, somewhere between 3 and 7 pages of frequently answered questions or frequently asked questions. And so if you don't get your answers there, you can call Hamilton County, EMA, or you call Anderson Township Fire Department. We'll help you out. We know the information that they will give out. I'm registered in there. I've urged all my family members. We've urged everybody in the fire department that lives in the county to do it. And we think it's very important. It's a second level of insurance in case we show up somewhere and we're unable to determine what's going on with an individual. And you know, one of the other things they can do that goes as far as they can actually put down your vehicle identification number information, your type of vehicle, your license plate. So if we're looking for somebody and then they're in their vehicle, maybe in a parking lot or something, we're able to hunt down, hopefully, triangulation for a phone signal will get us in the general area, but we can look for a specific car and a specific license plate to get us to the right vehicle. So I'm going to urge everybody, go to Alert Hamilton County, go to Smart 911, look at the information, and if you haven't, sign up because it's a win-win for everybody involved. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting information. Have you presented this at all at the senior center?
I have not.
I think I would love to get you over there.
I'd be happy
do
to.
exactly what you just did. And, you know, they have those little sessions all the time. So get you over there and do that. And then I was thinking as a follow-up, if we can even, you know, have some of our seniors, like, help them prepare their little kits kind of thing, you know.
I've signed, I know Chief Hurlinger, myself, and Lisa have signed people up in the front office here because they come in, they're not sure how to do it.
Right.
So we'll log them in, and we tell them when you get home, change your password.
Right.
But, you know, we can even do that with everybody watching.
Right.
Everybody gets scared about logging in, and it's a very easy system. If we do that for 1 or 2 people, they can either go home and do it, or we can actually have people just line up and we'll log them in as they're there.
It's a
It's
big
not a
safety
problem.
thing too, that, so for EMS, when you're arriving on site, you know what allergies the patient has. You know, the patient, let's say, is diabetic, so
Yep.
you know what you're already thinking might be the issue. Valuable time. being
And this
safe
is all information related to the hospital
Right.
for definitive care, you know.
Yeah, great. Well,
and being prepared.
I'll
Yeah.
make a note that we reach out to Claire and get that.
Give me a call.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, public forum. Individuals who wish to address the board should state their name and address for the record, make their points as clearly and concisely as possible, limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes, which may not be shared with or yielded to others. All comments should be directed to the Board of Township Trustees. And any comments? Okay. Okay, trustee comments. We're going to start with regular comment. I just want to remind everybody, school started today, well, for half the people. The other half starts tomorrow, apparently. But just remember about the busing thing. I just saw people whiz by the bus, and it already has its flashers on, and it's like, it's the first day. Okay, so just a reminder. I know that's on our website or our Facebook page. We've already been posting about that, but if you see the buses with the lights on, you got to stop, even if you're on the
Yeah,
other side of the street.
That graphic that was posted
Yeah.
was really nice, and
Yeah.
I think it's nice that everybody's on the same page, that they're all out, because it'll be, before you know it, dark. Can't see them, and they're
Exactly.
crossing in front of the buses, so thanks, Steve.
So, Lexi, you got
That's what I was
anything?
gonna talk about,
Oh,
kiddos.
sorry.
Happy back to school week for
Yes.
them. I know. Summer went by too fast.
Josh?
Nothing.
Okay, and I have another announcement. This is a bittersweet announcement. Ken Dietz, who has been our fiscal officer for 28 years, has notified the board of his intention to retire as of September 15th, 2023. So, Ken, would you like to say anything?
Sure. Reader's Digest version, hopefully. I do know where to begin. I moved out to Anderson Township in 1971. Had a job down at Hamilton County in the middle to late 70s. Got to know some of the people there. Eventually got involved in local politics during the 80s and met quite a few people that were also residents of Anderson Township and worked for Anderson Township. In those endeavors, I went to meetings and knew the trustees who were in office in those days, and I eventually was asked to volunteer to be on the Green Space Committee, and as I found out later, I actually got paid a little bit of money for looking at property for green space back in the early 90s. I guess with my familiarity with the people at the township, I was asked to, if I'd be interested in becoming the township clerk, as our clerk at that time, William Skeen, was retiring. And it seemed like, an opportunity. I had my own business. I had the time available, flexibility to do that. And so I accepted that and came into an office with a fairly good staff. I mean, young and hadn't been computerized yet, and we got through that. And one of the trustees in the early 2000s said, township clerk is not exactly what your office does. And so he and I went on a little statewide campaign to change the name of the clerk's office to the fiscal office. And so I remember we accomplished that. We both went and testified. Here's why we think we should do it. Not realizing that some of the small rural townships who had few miles to plow and snows and a few very tight budgets went to the convention that winter in the early 2000s and was pretty much confronted by a few of the township clerks at the time. Who made this decision? Well, I said, he did. That was Russ Jackson. I said, I don't know what you're... But then I finally had to admit, but they were concerned because they had small budgets and they were running for office every 4 years and they had signs. and they had to go out and buy new signs. And
I understand
yeah,
that.
one of them said, well, we got this, the crossroads of our township, we usually put up 10 or 15 signs. I apologize. So it turned out to be the right decision because it represents what the township fiscal officer does. So I was honored to be asked to do that job. It was a great job, had lots of fun, made a lot of good friends and relationships through that. Obviously got to know the trustees during that time. I was blessed to have administrators throughout my years, trustees throughout my years that were competent. There might have been a couple of exceptions there, but
Nobody up here, though.
nobody up here, no, definitely not. Speaking of that, we have just a great group right now with a little bit of diversity and agreement, not always, we don't always agree on everything, and as a trustee board, we should duke things out, so. But I've been fortunate to have great trustees, great administration, great department heads, great citizens. Our citizens have always supported us. There have been times when we sought to go out for a levy, and the cooperation from the residents here was, you need this money. And our levies over the years were always meant to last like 5 years, and we were competent enough with our spending that they usually last 7 to 8 years, and that's the same frame we're in right now. So it's been wonderful. It's time to just move on, and we have some, I think we've created a good staff in the last couple of years. We lost 2 longtime employees, retirement a couple of years ago, but I think this township is going to function, and I think everybody, the residents included, I know the residents will continue to support this township. As you know, we have a great reputation, not only in the state of Ohio, but nationally as being one of the most desirable places to live. So I just thank everybody. Wonderful working with you.
Well, you're going to have to repeat all of that on September 20th, because
I've got it memorized.
Good.
You know my memory.
We do. No, but we are going to do a formal recognition on the 20th at our board meeting, so I'm going to save all my comments for that meeting, but.
Your poem.
Are you going to write a poem?
He's going to save his poem for
I
then.
I thought you were gonna
don't know why you
sing.
would think that. But I think I just want to say thank you. I've known you for probably 22 of those 26 years.
Probably.
And
You were a baby, and
yeah, it was. It was. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you.
thank
So.
you.
Same, Ken. Obviously, you're, a part of everything since I've been a part of this, and it's been wonderful getting to know you, but also working with you. And it's not just, on our website, the fiscal office is the heartbeat of what's going on. It's not just you as a fiscal officer. You built a team and a culture that protects resources for the entire community. The fiscal office, it's attentiveness, it's thoughtfulness, and really having a bird's eye view of a lot of things happening at once. And so it's been my pleasure to work with you, Ken, and I wish you all the best on your retirement. I'll do
Thank
something
you.
else.
I feel
on
the
the
same
20th.
way, Becky.
Thank you, Ken.
I might mention, since you talked about the finances, we've had a great Moody rating over the time that I've been here, and that's thanks to everybody that's in this room and our employees and once again, our constituents. So.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Ken. I don't even want to talk. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure. The last 8 years working with you have been a pleasure. You're a
Likewise.
true gentleman, and I've really enjoyed working with you.
Thank you.
So, I'll say more on the 20th. Okay, so now, since Ken is retiring as of September 15th, we have a resolution before us to appoint a fiscal officer to fill that vacancy. So,
Okay. I move to adopt the resolution appointing fiscal officer to fill vacancy in office for the unexpired term pursuant to section 503.24 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Austin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
yes. Okay, so, now is there another piece of that?
If the board just wants to explain who you just appointed.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't
surprise,
exactly-
no, we will let, I'm like, wait, are
Wait,
we
wait,
supposed
wait,
to
do
tell
we-
who we're, yeah, okay.
I thought it was at the end.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. So, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So, yes, we have just, the person we're appointing is Brian Johnson. Brian, please stand up. Brian will be filling, Brian is actually on the ballot to run for the office in November,
Yes.
but he's running unopposed, so, and he's agreed to start, fill the vacancy as of September 15th. We look forward to working with Brian, and Brian has experience in, can you tell us a little bit about what your experience? Do you mind?
On the spot.
On the spot.
My name's Brian Johnson. I'm a CPA. I'm also an attorney. But I did work for the state auditor's office for about 6.5 years, auditing local governments. So I was on the other side of the fiscal office, issuing opinions on how the local governments operated. So
Okay.
And you've been a resident for how long?
14 years, I think.
And been active, I know you volunteered on zoning boards and some
Yeah.
other things. so-
Yes. 2 stints on the BZA.
Great.
A lot of expertise that you're bringing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was my fault, Dave.
No, it wasn't. I was like, okay, I thought somewhere in here, I thought
did
it would.
too. I thought there
well,
was
I thought it
something
would
next.
say in the
Yeah.
resolution, and then it didn't. It's like, okay, sorry.
And just for clarification for the public, so when trustees are elected to office, their term begins on January 1st. With the fiscal officer, their term begins on April 1st. So what the board just did was appoint Mr. Johnson to fulfill that term from September 16th through March, the end of March, and then if Mr. Johnson is elected, which he's running unopposed, then that term will begin on April 1st.
Just make sure you vote for yourself. That's all we got to say. Vote for yourself.
That's right. Thanks,
Okay,
Jen.
thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, now we're back to Ken.
Here we go.
Fiscal officer report.
The appropriations and the revenues, as I always say around this time, the revenues are coming in just the way we had estimated them. The expenditures are less, but we plan on catching up at the end of the year. If we don't, we will have to encumber some of the monies to complete projects that were scheduled for this year, but it just didn't happen for next year. So, and that's usually the case with the reports. We do have some appropriation changes at this time, which I would need your approval for. We have changes in the lighting districts. There was a calculation problem that we discovered a few months ago, and to correct that, we have some increases. It's almost lighting district by lighting district, but that will give us the ability to pay the bills till the end of the year. The total amount of the increase in appropriations, we do have revenues to cover those, is $17,740. As you see, it affects almost every lighting district. And there's another area of appropriation changes that are in the Fire and Rescue Department. Some of the replacement and career dollars were, I guess we would say, paid to the wrong area and not recalculated, and that's it's easy to do because replacement and career dollars can be interchanged with an appropriation change. It does not have to go to the county auditor's office for approval. It's within the district. And then we had off-duty pay, training, continuing ed, and life safety. We had some pluses to the off-duty pay, offset by minuses to the training, continuing ed, and life safety. So those are just to put the appropriations in line with what they should have been. So I would need your approval on both of those.
I move to adopt the appropriation changes outlined by Fiscal Officer Ken Dietz.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. We have a resolution in front of you. It was time for us to review our depository agreement. We sent out requests for proposals to our local banks, and anyone who would have been interested could have given us an RFP, and we received 3 proposals back. Our administrator, Vicki Earhart, and Tammy Disk, who is our director of finance now, and Michelle Moxley and myself sat down, reviewed the 3 proposals, tried to compare apples to apples, and it a little difficult with some of the numbers because the way they were presented to us in the 3 different proposals were not always apples and apples, but we tried to make it happen that way. Our most important consideration was that we had judged the service that we received over the last 2 or 3 depositories we had, and that always seemed to be the most important thing. Interest rates were also considered, but in these proposals, we decided on the best and most responsive and the services that we thought that they would provide to us. We had a depository with Huntington over the past 5 years. We've had other depositories with other banks in the past, and it was our decision that we received excellent service from Huntington, and that was our, as I said, our main consideration. So as you see in the resolution, that has been the depository we have selected.
Thank you. I move to adopt the resolution awarding active and interim public deposits.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And minutes,
Well, we
right?
have some minutes.
I'll move to
Two
approve the
sections.
minutes from May 18th and June 1st, 2023.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Finance Department.
Yes, finance is a new department for us. It is one the board authorized over the last several months, and it is a result of some changes at the state level when the General Assembly split out the fiscal office, where the fiscal office has to have its own budget. The fiscal officer employees report directly to the fiscal office, not the Board of Township Trustees. And that change in legislation caused us to go back and look at things that we have done cooperatively for at least my 29 years here and 28 with Mr. Dietz, where our offices work together and all the staff work together on budget and other items. But due to this change in law at the state level, we clearly had to split out some things. Certain things flow through township administration, certain flow through the fiscal office. So the board elected to set up a finance department, and I'm very pleased that we were able to hire Tammy Disk. She was with the Hamilton County Auditor's Office for a number of years, and she's been with us for about a month, a little over a month. 2, it doesn't seem that long. We are still in the process of setting up that department and shifting responsibilities, but she's been a tremendous asset, and we're pleased to have her. So, yes, we have another department, and then the fiscal officer's staff Katie back there in the corner, and Michelle Moxley still report to the fiscal officer. So things are working well. We're still cooperating like we always have, but it's just kind of on a different level and different division of duties. So that's it.
And prior to that, fiscal officer had 3 people, so we haven't really added.
Correct.
Good point, Dean.
Right.
Yeah, two and a half.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 2.5 people fiscal office always have. Now, fiscal office has 1.5, and the finance department has 1.
Correct.
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 Thank you. And thank you, Vicki, for, that takes a lot of work to maneuver and kind of adapt when there's a change in the Ohio Revised Code or something like that. And we don't really have a choice, but you were able to kind of help everybody navigate through it so that everything is still getting done with partnership. Thank you.
And welcome, Tammy.
Yes.
Yes.
Happy to have you.
Yep. Okay, fire and rescue. Chief Martin. This is a lot of grants. This is good news. I was like, ooh, yeah.
Hello.
Goody.
Show us the money.
The first item that the fire department has is requesting permission to accept a grant award in the amount of $755.10. It is a 23-24 Ohio EMS training and equipment grant. The state decides how much money we get when we apply for the grant. That's the max we could get this year. And we plan on using that money for EMS training and training equipment. So there's a motion before you for consideration to accept that grant.
Thank you. I move to accept on behalf of Anderson Township the Ohio EMS 2023-24 Training and Equipment Grant from the Ohio Division of EMS in the amount of $755.10 to be applied to the purchase of EMS equipment and/or EMS training as specified within the award. The Township Administrator is hereby authorized to execute any documents necessary and appropriate to consummate the grant transaction.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Okay, the second item from the fire department this evening is we're requesting permission with this request to apply for a firefighter exposure to environmental elements grant. It's called a FEEG grant. It is a 5-to-1 fund, matching funds, which means we would pay about 16.7% of the grant award. There's the potential of receiving almost or $12,500. We're applying for this grant, particularly if we get it, for the purchase of a machine that was already in our budget. This machine is like a big dishwasher, but it washes the SCBAs, the backpacks that the firemen wear. Studies from NFPA have shown that we are, no matter how good we scrub it, we're not getting all the nooks and crannies and all the contamination off, and it's sitting in the engines. These machines have to pass NFPA tests to make sure they clean. This this machine was already in our budget for 23. If we're able to get this grant, we'll knock probably close to 50% of the cost of the machine off what we were expecting to spend. So there's a motion for your consideration relative to that grant application.
I move to authorize the Anderson Township Fire and Rescue Department's application seeking a firefighter exposure to environmental elements grant managed by the Ohio Bureau of Workmen's Compensation, for which the Anderson Township Fire and Rescue Department's 16.67% matching funds requirement would not exceed $2,550 for the purpose of purchasing environmental SCBA cleaning equipment during the 2023-2026 award period.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. The third item is the fire department requesting authorization to sell for the sum of at least $1 to the Village of Newtown several life jackets and about 6 throw rope bags, essentially. These are older devices or older life jackets, and we have found they're the big ones you usually see like Coast Guard wear, the bulky ones, and we found that especially on our John boats and our smaller boats that it interferes with the guys trying to pull in victims or things like that. So they're at the end of what we would consider about an 8 or 10 year useful life, but they still have some purpose and life in them. So this particular motion before, a resolution before you, seeks us to be able to sell them to the Village of Newtown law enforcement, or the police department, because they respond with us along the Little Miami River for quite a distance. You know, police officers are on the road in their cars when runs come in, and there have been instances where they get there first, and we want them to be safe, have a PFD, and have the ability to throw something out to maybe, if nothing else, just have somebody grab on until we can get there with more definitive rescue apparatus. So this particular resolution is just asking to be able to sell a limited number of equipment for all their vehicles. There'll be one in each vehicle for the Newtown Police Department.
Nice, thank you. Okay. I move to adopt the resolution authorizing the sale of surplus flotation equipment to the Village of Newtown, Ohio pursuant to Section 505.101 of the revised code.
What's that? Oh,
Oh,
I don't remember. I'm like, what is that child? Yeah, I'm like,
is there a little toddler behind me? Sorry about that.
sweet.
yes, second.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Austin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. And I just want to mention to everyone that we're selling these to them for $1.
Yes.
So I love this, that
That's
it's like,
nice.
we don't need them, they do. I just think it's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But
Thank
this is
you.
something that you always do, Rick.
yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, we're,
Thank you. It's good.
The last resolution, thank you for that. The last resolution is basically the same sales situation of PFDs and throw equipment for a much larger number of vehicles to the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office that'll be in District 5 cars. So these will be not only for responses along the Ohio River, but also the entirety of the Little Miami. Like I said, their police officers are often some of the first on the scene. So we're looking for your approval or consideration of the resolution to, for at least $1, sell this equipment to the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office.
I move to adopt the resolution authorizing the sale of surplus flotation equipment to the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office pursuant to Section 505.101 of the revised code.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Austin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
yes,
Thank you.
thank
That's
you.
all
And
the
theirs
fire
are only
department has.
$1 too. Yeah,
I'm sorry?
They got the same deal. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Rick.
That's great. Okay, let's see, planning and zoning, Paul? Nothing, okay. Public Works, Eric?
Good evening. We have a couple small things tonight towards our pavement management program. As the board's aware, John Jurgensen Company is under contract to complete the 2023 pavement management program on 39 streets in the township. During this process, several areas of new curb were damaged on the following streets: Monchateau Drive, Coran Drive, Calgary Drive, and Manitoba. Right after this happened, I contracted Zcrete LLC to perform the repairs to these curb areas as quickly as possible for a total cost of $13,650, and that cost will be deducted from Jurgensen's invoice. But since the purchase order that was approved for the 2023 pavement management program listed Jurgensen as the vendor, that PO cannot be used to pay Zcrete. Therefore, I'm requesting that the board consider the attached resolution, which would authorize the repair of the related expenditures.
Move to adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the repair of 210 linear feet of curb along Monchateau, Calgary, Coran, and Manitoba Drive, and the payment of expenses with respect thereto.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Austin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
real quick, is that unusual to have that much? Or is it just,
It could be more. We're
Okay,
hoping
I
it never
just- it
happens,
happened.
but
Okay,
sometimes
okay.
they get into the curb a little bit when they're grinding
Okay.
to do the repave. So that's what that repair is for.
thank you.
Next up, again, as the board's aware, our pavement management program, we apply a microsurface overlay to a select number of streets every year. Prior to the microsurface application for this year, I would like to ask the board to approve the repair of 700 foot of a grind and repave of one lane of Windwatch Drive by Pruce Construction in the amount of $28,785, with the added 10% contingency of $2,878.50 for the total of $31,663.50 to perform this work. This will need to be done before or prior to the application from Strasser Construction for the microsurface overlay this year. And that's before you this evening also.
Thank you. I move to accept proposal from Pruce Construction to grind and pave Windwatch Drive for an amount not to exceed $28,785 with a 10% contingency of $2,878.50 for a total of $31,663.50. The work will be performed according to the specifications and funded with state and local fiscal recovery fund monies in 1994 TIF dollars.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all we have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Downing, nothing? Okay. Okay, Vicki has a lot.
I do. Mr. Severs takes the first one.
Okay.
Good evening. As the board's aware, the township was fortunate to receive a grant application through SORTA to introduce 1 or 2 crosswalks on Beachmont Avenue west of Salem. That process has become quite interesting as we've worked through that, but we're making headway. One of the aspects of this involves infrastructure. We need to accommodate that, and what you have before you is a proposal and a request for authorization to enter into a contract to conduct survey and preliminary engineering work for a sidewalk and curb on the north side of Beachmont on Vole, which would create a 4-way intersection there with sidewalks coming to a potential crosswalk that we're looking to install. And so that proposal is before you. This would allow us to ensure that the engineering and the grade is such that would accommodate piping of the ditch in that area and ultimately installation of the sidewalk as a step forward. This would be paid for by township funds, but ultimately the construction would be paid for by community development block grant funds that we receive every 3 years. So if there's any questions, happy to answer those.
I move to authorize the township administrator to enter into a contract with Choice One following review of the law director for the survey and preliminary design of a sidewalk along Vole Road utilizing 1994 TIF funds, for which construction would be paid for with CDBG funds.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. All right. 11B and 11C are 2 resolutions I would request the board's consideration. Through a collaborative effort between Anderson Township Board of Trustees, the Forest Hills School District, and the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, there is a proposal to add a second school resource officer to serve our community. Under the proposal that's before you, the school district would fund the school resource officer's salary and benefits, while Anderson Township Board of Trustees would fund the cost of a vehicle and related equipment. In addition, Anderson Township would continue to fund the first school resource officer fully, salary, benefits, and vehicle, which is something that was initiated by Anderson Township back in 2001 and something we've been funding for the last 22 years. So during last night's meeting of the Board of Education, it is my understanding that they approved a cooperative agreement with the township to fund this second SRO, and I would now request similar legislation be considered by this board, and also a separate resolution that would authorize a second amendment to our existing agreement with the Sheriff's Office to provide for the second SRO and to confirm that we will be funding the vehicle.
Okay.
I attended the board meeting last night, and they did approve the resolution, so
Very
it's done. Yeah.
So I move to adopt the resolution approving and authorizing a cooperative agreement with the Forest Hills Local School District to provide for the reimbursement to the township of the expense of providing for the services of a second school resource officer and authorizing the execution and delivery of said cooperative agreement by the township administrator.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Oh, and there's something. I move to adopt the resolution approving and authorizing a second amendment to agreement for police protection services to provide for the services of a second school resource officer serving the Forest Hills School District and authorizing the execution and delivery of said second amendment by the township administrator.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. And as I understand it, you interviewed people today, correct?
Yes, we
Oh,
did.
okay.
Yes, we
Very
did.
good.
So, the Sheriff's Office, as with, explained in our contract with the Sheriff's Office, and just for background, Anderson Township has contracted for police services through the sheriff's office for more than 5 decades. And as always, the employees are employees of the sheriff. They're not employees of the township or the school district. And so the sheriff's office has the ultimate decision, but we were allowed, both the school district personnel and Mr. Severs and I had some input on some of the candidates that they had. I don't know if you're ready to make that. I didn't think so. Okay. But our hope is.
Good people?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, and our hope is that someone will be in that second role pretty soon, because Corporal Wolf and Officer Gecky before him have been serving, all 9 schools in Forest Hills plus IHM for a long time, so it's a lot to cover.
It really is. So this is an exciting step, and it's been a lot of conversations to get here, so this is good.
Yes.
Really good.
And it's my understanding that part of the reason the school district was able to fund this was some additional funding from the state.
Very
So-
good. And this is what that money needs to go for, is keeping our kids safe. That's
Yep.
great. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, 11D through 11L on your agenda are lighting district renewals. And again, a little bit of background for the public. What a lighting district is, the township, there are 37 lighting districts. These are neighborhoods that come to the board, they petition to have lights installed in their particular street or streets, their subdivision, and the properties that are directly benefited must pay for those lights through assessments. These are not the street lights that you see on Town Center Way or Beachmont Avenue or other areas where we maybe install a light on a county road to help in a curve or an area where there's a bus stop. Those are paid for by the township. But these lighting districts are specifically paid by the benefited property owners. So the first, like I said, 11D through L are lighting district renewals, because the assessments are typically only good for 5 to 10 years. And these were all prepared, thank you, by our Public Works Department. So I would ask that the board consider each of these separately, as they are assessments and they do need to be considered separately.
I move to adopt a resolution awarding contract and confirming assessments for Anderson Manor Lighting District pursuant to the revised code sections 9.305. Do I have to read the numbers too? Do I have to do that one?
If you could do it once, and then we'll
Then we'll
just,
fill in the blanks.
Pursuant to revised code sections 9.30, 515.08, 515.081, and 515.11.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lofton? Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Yes.
Let me cross them off as I go.
And then we're
Hurry.
Okay, I'm trying. I move to adopt the resolution awarding contract and confirming assessment for Coldstream Park Lighting District pursuant to revised codes, sections 9.30 and the rest. Do I have to really read them all?
Mrs. Comey isn't here, so I'll let you get back to that.
Okay, read it.
Okay, I move, you have to,
Second.
sorry,
Second.
second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
I move to adopt a resolution awarding contract and confirming assessments for Jacaro Lighting District pursuant to the relevant
Second.
code sections.
Yes, second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
I move to adopt the resolution awarding contract and confirming assessment for Markley Farm Lighting District pursuant to revised code, the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
I move to adopt an award contracting and confirming assessments for Nordike Trails Lighting District pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
I move to adopt the resolution awarding contract and confirming assessments for the Nottingham Cove Lighting District pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Move to adopt a resolution awarding contract and confirming assessments for the Pinetum Lighting District pursuant to revised code.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
I move to adopt the resolution awarding contract and confirming assessment for the St. Ives Lighting District pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
I move to adopt a resolution awarding contract confirming assessments for Wolf Angle Farms Lighting District pursuant to the revised code.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Done.
Yes.
I move to adopt the resolution.
Wait, okay, no. We can pause for 1 second. Pause. Okay, Vicki has something to say.
Thank you. Okay.
We were on a roll.
You were on a roll, and I'm trying to save you a little bit of pain here. So, 11M, these are lighting districts. Mr. Dietz alluded to this earlier. Over the last several months, staff have been actively reviewing existing lighting assessments. These are not ones that are due for renewal. These may be lighting district assessments that are in their first year, their second, third, fourth year. But in reviewing the 37 lighting districts, we came to the realization that some of the districts were not, that they were underfunded. We weren't collecting as much revenue as we should to cover our expenditures, especially with increased cost in electricity. When these lighting districts are renewed, we're looking at estimates out for 4 or 5 years. So there were some things that we wanted to adjust, and so the remainder of the lighting districts that are listed under 11M are existing lighting districts. We're asking that the board would consider additional assessments to ensure that we are collecting enough revenue to cover these expenditures. As I mentioned, the assessments are paid by the benefited property owners rather than the township tax dollars as a whole. So I would ask that you consider a motion, and you can approve all of these through consent agenda with one motion, which is listed under 11M.
So it's on your agenda, the meeting agenda.
Yes.
I move to adopt the resolution number 23-0717-A to 23-0817-K.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We
So
thank you for
much.
that.
Now,
Yes.
now I do have to mention, because we still have, as I've said a couple of times, we have 37 lighting districts. What you adopted tonight is not all of those lighting districts. So when we get together again on August 31st at the board's interim workshop meeting, which will be at 2 p.m., I will ask the board to consider similar legislation for the following lighting districts. And the reason I'm reading this now is so that if there are any members of the public, because our attendance at our interim workshop meeting is not always the best.
Right,
I want to make sure the public is aware.
Not like this, Shiny Crowd.
On August 31st, we will ask for legislation for the following lighting districts: Ashton Grove, Fox Trail Farms, Glen Abbey, Harcourt Estates, Landings of Anderson Phase 1, Landings of Anderson Phase 2, Lawyers Point, McIntosh, Merritt Grove, Stonebridge, Turpin Lakes, Washington Hills South, Woods at Coldstream, and Winds of Anderson Phase 2. I also want to take a moment. This was a Herculean task. It involved Mr. Dietz and his staff and our new Director of Finance and Mr. Lugenbuehl and Ms. Hobbs. It was an all-out effort, and everybody assisted in this, so I want to thank them for their work on this project.
Yes, thank you. That was a lot of work.
All hands
And
on
we
deck.
appreciate it.
All hands on
Yeah,
deck.
thank you.
The last item that I'm sure you're glad to hear, I said last item.
The last item
The
from
last item that we
arising
have this evening is a motion arising from
From
executive
executive
session
session.
discussion.
I moved,
11N.
oh, okay. I moved to hire Maddie Kelly for the event lead position effective August 21st, 2023, at a starting pay of $19 an hour, and all other benefits normally offered with full-time employment. After 90 days of employment, Ms. Kelly will be eligible for a $1 hourly pay rate increase.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Okay, our next regular board meeting will be Wednesday, not Thursday, Wednesday, September 20th,
Oh, yes.
5 p.m., well, 5 p.m. in executive session. The actual meeting in here will start at 5:30. So that's a Wednesday, that's a minor change, and I think the play sounds great.
Yes.
And can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you later, Ken.
Where are we going?
See you later, Ken.
Come on.